They call it the Swiss Knife Valley, a reference to California's Silicon Valley. The main attraction here is not technology, it's the cradle of Swiss Army knife making. Swiss Army knives have gone from toy to icon. The biggest Swiss Army knife ever built in Switzerland has 314 functionalities. It's registered in the World's Guinness Book. Victorinox, founded some 126 years ago, is today the sole producer of the famous do-it-all knives adopted by many armies worldwide and millions of households. With daily production of 120,000 knives and 900 employees, the iBadge-based company is by far the biggest employer in the Swiss canton.
I'm the fourth generation of Victorinox. My great-grandfather started the company.
Lower down in the building, where noise level contrasts with the quietness of top management floors, Swiss Army knives are taking shape. Unlike many other Swiss industrial companies that have delocalized production in recent years, Victorinox manufactures its knives entirely here. The company regularly opens its doors to journalists, but it doesn't mean that every corner of the factory can be filmed, nor that any of its manufacturing secrets are revealed.
So here you see the raw material which is stamped out by the machine. The raw material is well known as steel, but the manufacturing process, this is our secret. This makes the quality at the end.
Compared to the early days in the iBadge factory, the manufacturing process is of course much more automated. But one is still surprised to see the importance of handwork along the chain. The steel bars are perforated, polished with stones and hardened in high-temperature oven before the blades can eventually be sharpened. Paul Hazer started working here some 39 years ago. He doesn't joke with quality controls.
0.02% is the tolerance margin we have for a component. We can't go that threshold, otherwise the part has to be taken out. We can only use precise material. The quality of Swiss knives certainly derives from the high precision of different components.
Victorinox's first model was delivered to the Swiss Army back in 1891. At the time, the Swiss Army planned to purchase a pocket knife for its soldiers from German manufacturers. Elsner's great-grandfather saw an interesting business opportunity there and came up with its own Swiss model, which included a blade, a can opener, a screwdriver, and a punch. Exactly what soldiers needed to eat and maintain their rifle at the same time. The knife gained rapid success among troops, and a more complete version with a corkscrew was created for army officers. Still, until the Second World War, the Swiss Army knife wasn't really famous beyond Swiss borders. Worldwide sales really took off after the war when American soldiers returned home with huge quantities of Swiss Army knives in their luggage. They had bought them in Europe as presents for their relatives and friends. Nowadays, some 15 foreign armies use the original Victorinox Swiss Army knife, including in Malaysia, Nigeria, and Germany. The NASA Space Agency also has supply contracts with the company.
Today, the sales we do with the Swiss Army has become very small. It's less than 1% of our sales. But because of the popularity of the Swiss Army knife and the name Swiss Army is connected to our brand, the image of the Swiss Army is still very important for our company.
The US is currently Victorinox's second biggest market after Switzerland. It's also where Victorinox's worst moment in history. As the management describes it, started with the September 11, 2001 attacks against the Twin Towers. The airline industry reacted immediately by banning knives on board, knives that were often purchased in duty-free shops at airports, cutting Victorinox sales by a third. While Victorinox survived the crisis, its main competitor, a Swiss company called Weger, didn't. Financial problems were so big that it was up for sale in 2005. Victorinox, fearing that a foreign firm might try to buy Weger and delocalize production abroad, bought it, becoming the sole producer of Swiss Army knife in the country.
The Swiss Army knife is so strong associated with Switzerland, with the red handles, with the cross and shield as our emblem, and we would lose a lot of credibility when we would change the production from Switzerland into another country.
Victorinox is not listed on any stock exchange. Its stock is entirely in the hands of the Elsner family. Management says that this has helped it recover fast from the 9/11 crisis, as it could invest heavily after the slowdown without having to justify these expenses to outside shareholders.
Victorinox has been in the business for the past 126 years. There have been turbulent times, especially after 9/11, when sales fell sharply. But overall, the company has managed to keep its reputation, and sales figures are now very profitable. The recipe is simple according to management. First, you need to keep production inside the country, that means inside Switzerland. And second, every year you have to come up with new products so that you keep beating competition.
Right at the factory entrance is a small shop that sells the company's latest models. The nowadays 100-strong collection goes far beyond the familiar small blade, scissors, and a screwdriver. The range, for instance, includes a cyber tool that comes handy for office lifts. It has a USB flash drive with fingerprint access and a laser pointer. The company is also working on Bluetooth devices that will soon allow customers to open garage doors or turn on house lights by remote control. In many cases, it's the customer themselves who have asked the company to add these features.
Army knife, this is interesting, is really an inspiration for many people, for our customers, because they use it daily and they come up with new functions and features which they would like also to have integrated. And they write us through email that they would like to have integrated this and this product.
To attract more clients, Victorinox has also broadened its product range and opened outlets that exclusively sell Victorinox goods. That's the case here in Geneva's main shopping street. The products on display include cutlery, traveling bags, watches, clothes, and even branded perfumes. This diversification has sometimes been criticized as too dilutive for the brand by analysts, but the company says it's very happy with current sales figures. It tries to keep the same functionality for these new products as for the original Swiss Army knife.
This is another piece of luggage that we do in Victorinox, which again has the same connotations as the Swiss Army knife, durability, innovations and iconic design. On this one in particular, we have retractable wheel system, so therefore we pull them up once we pull the bar and we use it as a trolley, and when we don't need it, we'll just click them in and they go straight inside and can be used as a normal rucksack.
Thanks to the diversification, sales of pocket knives now already account for less than 50% of the company's total turnover. The product range extension was apparently triggered by the fear that tougher criminal legislation may slowly outlaw Swiss Army knives from private pockets. In a recent case in Great Britain, police fined a driver for keeping his Swiss Army knife in the car, considering it a potential weapon.
For me personally, the biggest risk and the biggest challenge is growing violence globally. because we start to realize that in some countries where violence becomes bigger and bigger, the laws for our products becomes tougher and tougher. And this also forces us to think about new pocket tools where we take out the blade, because the blade in some countries, because of the growing violence, becomes a problem.
But would a Swiss Army knife still be a real Swiss Army knife without a blade? Future buyers will have their say. At the Victorinox factory's shop in Ibach, the sign of a possible reconversion is already on display. Next to the steel models, chocolate knives now have their places on the main counter.